And as some comrades say, it's lit, right? lit. Real, live, lit. Right? The revolution is lit.
Uhuru, this is Margaret Kimberly. All out on Saturday, November 4th for the 15th annual Black People's March on the White House, sponsored by the Black is Back Coalition. Drop the charges on Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, leader of the Uhuru movement. On July 29, 2022, the FBI launched pre-dawn raids on 7 properties of the Uhuru movement in 2 cities using assault weapons, flashbang grenades, and drones. The chairman and 2 others, known as the Uhuru 3, have been indicted by the U.S. government and face federal charges. Chairman Yeshitela has said, "The FBI wants to put me on trial for fighting for black freedom. Put the colonial state on trial, we will win." An attack on free speech for Chairman Omali Yeshitela is an attack on everyone's free speech. March under the banner of the anti-colonial free speech movement. Register for the Black People's March on the White House on Saturday, November 4th at blackpeoplesmarch.com or go to handsoffuhuru.org. Drop the charges against the Uhuru 3 and power to the people.
Uhuru comrades, and welcome to today's Omali Tommy Sunday Study, live with the leader of the African nation, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. My name is Akile Anai, the Director of Agitation and Propaganda for the African People's Socialist Party, as well as your MC for this morning. Today's study is themed, "The World is Changing," all out to the Black People's March on the White House. Just like the theme suggests, the world is changing for the better. A future free of the colonial mode of production, which oppresses, exploits, and deprives the majority of the peoples on the planet Earth a life of peace, prosperity, and their agency. The colonized throughout the world are rising up, and this time we will win, because unlike previous periods and struggles, the African Revolution is armed with its own political party and theory necessary to achieve total victory. We unite with the struggles of colonized peoples throughout the world, including Palestine, the indigenous/Mexicans of the so-called Americas, the Philippines, and all, and there will be no better place to demonstrate this unity and our commitment to the anti-colonial struggle than the 15th annual Black is Back Coalition's Black People's March on the White House on November 4th. This mobilization raises the demand to drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, to defend the right to free speech, and is part of building the anti-colonial free speech movement. It's a demonstration that will take place in various locations around the world, including London, England, Pretoria, South Africa, and the US West Coast mobilization. We have a packed speaker lineup today who will not only talk about the importance of this mobilization, but also its significance in the context of this changing world. We'll have with us today the leader and founder of the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We also have the Secretary General of the African Socialist International based in London, Luwezi, Kinshasa. And we hope to have the Director of Organization for the African People's Socialist Party's Africa region, Director Tafarie Mugeri. We also have with us today the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement President, Matsemela Odom, and the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru campaign, Mwezi Odom. We also will be joined by Jesse Neville, the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, one of the Uhuru Three, and also representing for Penny Hess, the chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, also one of the Uhuru Three. We're going to begin with Chairman Omali Yeshitela and welcome the other panelists following the overview before moving into our announcements and Q&A. Before we start, make sure to share this study far and wide. Take a moment right now, this very moment, and tag your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to Chairman Omali's Twitch channel. Share, hit that share button, and make sure we can disseminate this discussion far and wide. We experienced a powerful teach-in put on by the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition on yesterday around the Palestinian question, and we experienced, being shut down by Facebook and YouTube and these different platforms. So it's clear they do not want us to have this discussion. They don't want you to have access to this information. So we have to defy that and share this broadcast out far and wide, get people tuned in and involved in this discussion. So, comrades, without further ado, I would like to welcome up the leader of the African nation, the worldwide African revolution, the primary target of the FBI raids on the African People's Socialist Party on July 29th, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru Chairman, can you please tell us about this march and its significance given the situation in the world right now? Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Comrade Akile. I'd like to also express my appreciation to everybody who's tuned in to this discussion, participating from the various locations around the world as well. And I'd like to start by saluting all of you, and also, as per usual, saluting brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa and in other areas of the international African community where because of your distance from the imperial powers, the colonizers, there is a scarcity of infrastructure. So that makes it very difficult to participate in these kinds of discussions. There's scarcity of resources available to you. And so I know many of you are participating through group discussions, group studies, group participation, and I appreciate the fact that many of you will have had to travel distances and what have you to get to wherever it is that you are now participating in this discussion. So thank you so much. And as usual, a special shout out to my Wofasi, my sister-in-law, Afua, who is there in Ghana. I want to also acknowledge something that was referenced by you, Comrade Director Akile, in your introduction to this discussion. That was the incredible teach-in that just occurred on yesterday with participation from various people talking about this Palestinian Israeli contradiction that is consuming the attention of peoples all around the world, and certainly people who suffer from colonial domination and are conscious of this relationship they have to colonialism. It's an incredibly significant moment, and the vast contradictions of colonialism at this very moment are concentrated in that struggle that's happening in occupied Palestine. I was talking earlier this morning with Comrade City Council member Charles Barron, who also thought that this was really important teach-in that we did. We have to do many more of these kinds of teach-ins. And those of you who have access to what we've already done should find ways to share it and should find ways to also initiate teach-ins where you are located. I just think is extremely important because what we are dealing with is information that is very difficult for ordinary people to come by. That the rulers of this country, the instruments of communications that they control, and that's the vast majority of them, deny us an opportunity to get information and discussions beyond what it is that they would offer up to the people to keep the masses of people stupefied and locked into this colonial project. And they would have us functioning as just obedient, inert objects to be molded and pushed around and carrying out their will to function as cannon fodder for the unjust wars that they are engaged in, killers participating in these unjust wars, functioning as no more than mercenaries who are killing and dying for a paycheck and not because of anything that we have a right to believe in terms of justice, et cetera. So it was an extraordinarily important teach-in, and I really want to salute all of the people who participated in that teach-in to provide such a concentrated bit of information. It was extremely important, and I want to thank everybody for that and to salute it. In terms of the significance of the November 4th mobilization that we are looking for, the anti-colonial free speech mobilization that will be happening in Washington, D.C. as the primary place. It's only primary because it's the headquarters of the U.S. colonial government. But this is something that we will see happening in Los Angeles, California. We expect a lot of people out in Los Angeles, California, Mexicans and Filipinos and Africans and all people who are considered part of white left and anti-imperialist forces. It's going to be a great turnout there in Los Angeles. I think Comrade Penny Hess will be speaking at that mobilization. There will be a lot of people who will come out to Washington, D.C. We are discussing how to get people there. We don't have a certain kind of expertise. In some instances, we don't have the kinds of resources that we would like to have to get information out and get buses. There are some buses, and we know there are caravans and things like that leaving from various parts of the United States going into Washington, D.C. But then in Pretoria in South Africa at the U.S. Embassy, there will be an action there that is a part of what it is that we're doing for November 4th in terms of this anti-colonial free speech movement that we're putting forward. And we are demanding that these charges, these bogus charges that's being imposed on our people will be dropped. In London, we expect to see Africans and others from Europe, from throughout Europe, coming into London to participate in this mobilization at the U.S. Embassy there as well. And all of this, of course, you can get information around by going to the Hands Off Uhuru. I think it's .org, and then there is a march. How is it characterized? There's a Black People's March on the White House, Black People's March website that people can go to as well. So please do that. I think it's important for us to have this discussion in terms of contextualizing the significance of this November 4th mobilization, given the conditions and relations and struggles that people are involved in right now. We have characterized this era in the African People's Socialist Party as something like an uneasy equilibrium, that really is introducing us to a final offensive against the whole colonial system, the whole colonial mode of production, the whole setup of oppression and exploitation that people experience globally. Now, when we talk about a final offensive, in many instances, people hear this as the ultimate or the crucial kind of initiative that's been taken on the military within a military kind of struggle that is designed to crush an enemy opponent. The final offensive, the one that will be the determining offensive. But we mean this in historical terms. We mean that the nature of this colonial mode of production, the nature of the system based on colonialism relies on an ongoing a parasitic relationship with oppressed peoples to be able to suck our blood, suck our resources, suck our future, suck the children of our future, our hopes, our dreams, and what have you, and abscond with them, to take those dreams and hopes in our future and place them in the possession of a colonizer nation, where you have the people among the colonizer nation living within a system that has come into existence that we know as capitalism. Now that the whole world is grasped by this system that strangles us, et cetera, with a difference being that those in the colonizer nation get an opportunity to share the loot, share the resources that's being sucked up from our communities, which is why we have such things as we characterize in St. Louis as an example, as a Del Mar divide, where north of the Del Mar divide, you have starvation, poverty, and a design process. In fact, the Rand Corporation actually created this process. They characterize it as benign neglect, where they were consciously, purposely denying resource and the ability for people to live in this community for the benefit of the other community. And I say the other community, it does benefit. It's a part of what contributes to the loyalty of a sector of the population that exploits, that's engaged in a process of exploitation. So this becomes like a part of a payoff that's built into the colonial mode of production that's again based on sucking the life and the blood of those who are colonized. And so, and this is what we are looking at, and this is what we've suffered from a long time, since the beginning, since for 600 years, this is what we have had to deal with. So in the 1960s, there was an extraordinary explosion. It didn't come out of nowhere. People had been working forever. The colonized have never willingly submitted to oppression, exploitation. No people will willingly submit to a situation that's killing their children and saying that you can't have a future, that we will remove you from the planet Earth, which is what colonialism does. And so this is a struggle that's been ongoing. But it took on certain kinds of characteristics, especially we saw in the 1940s and 50s, when struggle between the colonial powers heated up again about who was going to get what possessions, what they characterized as their possessions from the colonized people. And that these wars to redivide the world was something that was featured during this process. In the 1950s, the amazing struggles that we saw happening in Korea with the Korean people, 1940s, of course, leading to that, India becomes independent, China becomes independent. The world had lived up until this time under the boot of white power. And it was a power that defined itself as white. This is where we get the definitions of whiteness, is that there's every effort being made to obscure and liquidate now, but we didn't characterize, we didn't create the white man. This is a self-designation of goodness and beauty and genius, et cetera. This is something that was self-designated by the colonizer themselves. So we had the situation where this remarkable struggle has been going on for some time now. And again, as I mentioned, these amazing struggles in the 1940s were part of it. And these struggles happening obviously in places like China and places like, excuse me, places like India, but they were also happening within the United States and other places. People have always fought for freedom, but they these struggles consolidated themselves in particular ways. By the 1950s, after you see the independence of China and India, the conferences, international conferences being held by people who living under colonial domination, who had lived under colonial dominations, Bandung Conference being one, to talk about how to end this relationship we have with colonialism, where people from everywhere committed to the destruction of this colonial relationship that existed in the world. 1960s, this thing heats up even more, so that by 1962, I think it was a tri-continental conference, that conference involving peoples and organizations from 3 continents, Africa, Asia, and Latin America, as it's characterized, came together. Some of the most notable figures in the struggle for the liberation of our peoples and the peoples of the world attended that. That included people like Zhou Enlai from China, which had only recently won independence and consolidated the liberation of China itself. People came from everywhere and were determined that people should be free. And in '62 in Havana, Amilcar Cabral was one of the featured forces who was there. Other people, they're talking about ending this colonial relationship. By the 1960s, of course, as a part of the fight back, counterinsurgency war that was mounted against the revolution all around the world. And I think it's really important for us to understand that we are talking about a global struggle that was made manifest at Bandung, that was made manifest with the Tri-Continental Conference in particular. And then you had revolutionary organizations in some places that saw through their own philosophical worldview a connection with all of the peoples in the world in a common struggle to create a different kind of world where the people who labor, people who lay their hands to nature and change it to meet the requirements of human beings. This is what's called production. This is what production is, where there was an assumption that the working peoples of the world, the producers of the world, should ultimately be the ones who preside over the society where collectively, where collective production, social production is responsible for how all human beings acquire what we need. And so this movement existed even in the context, and not everybody who was at Bandung and not everybody who participated in the Tri-Continental Conference held those views. But a point is that there was a world that was in serious motion, determined that to get the boot of white power off our necks. And that was everywhere. And the colonizers succeeded in destroying much of that. Assassinations, wars initiated against people, overthrowing different governments, killing the leaders of significance. This happened globally around the world. 1960s, of course, we saw that make itself very pronounced, made a very pronounced appearance with the assassinations of people like Malcolm X and like Nkrumah and like Martin Luther King and like Lumumba. Just murder, mayhem, mass imprisonments of people all around the world. We don't even know how many people were arrested and killed in the United States alone during this period of time. We know some of them because they had achieved an element of notoriety, like the Black Panther Party. They had acquired a certain capacity for communications that was greater than most of the people in this country. So we know about them, we know some of them, et cetera. But there were so many people who were killed in jail whose names we may never know until we have power and we can retrieve documents that these governments have accumulated that will spell out their murder and mayhem. So this is what we were looking at. And in the 1960s in the United States, a remarkable movement that was characterized by, in many instances, impoverished African people in housing projects and places like that, people who had to rely on public transportation to, if there was any, to get from one place to the other, were involved in leading these struggles. And in fact, even Martin Luther King, who came to be lionized by liberals and what have you subsequent to his murder, was somebody who died in part because he was able to unite with the oppressed in places like Vietnam. He was able to denounce U.S. participation in murder and mayhem in Vietnam, colonial domination of people there, because he was able to maintain the loyalty of millions of Africans and other people around the world, and therefore was a threat to the extent that he maintained any element of independence from control by the colonizer. And then because he was moved to a direct connection with African workers, with the sanitation department, et cetera, Martin Luther King was assassinated. He represented that kind of threat. And so this massive assault that was made on the liberation movement. So we know some things about the murder now. They've got posters that we've produced, and I say we, I'm talking about people who were involved. You got a poster Che Guevara appears on T-shirts, and we've got posters of Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King and bumper stickers and things like that. So that kind of thing, Lumumba, we sort of know about that. But generally speaking, what we are aware of is the destruction of individuals, the murder of individuals. We celebrate King, we celebrate people like Malcolm, et cetera. But what is generally not so well understood is the assault on these people was also an assault on an ideology, on a general ideology, the ideology anti-colonial philosophy that was developing and continuing to try to be developed, coming from various places around the world. This concentrated intellectual activity that's associated with the struggle of people to be free against colonialism. That was the thing that so dominated the world. And when this attack and the murders and then the assault on our organizations, so many organizations were destroyed, so many leaders were assassinated, so many of the members of those leaderships were dispersed. They're no longer having organizations they can be attached to. So many were imprisoned, et cetera. This was a foundation for challenging the ideological foundation of our movement and imposing another notion that somehow the struggle never was about being free from slavery, but to find a better space on the slave plantation. It never was about being free from colonialism, but to create a kind of gentler colonialism. And then ultimately the disappearance of the concept of colonialism altogether. So people were no longer colonized, people were victims of racial dislikes, people were victims of racial discrimination, et cetera, and to be discriminated within a system, not to be oppressed by a system. This is what came to occur. So the African People's Socialist Party was born in 1972, but it came out of this history that I'm talking about. It came out of this history not just in terms of philosophy that was occurring, but also in terms of participation in the movement. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, various other civil rights kinds of activities, and Black power movements, et cetera. This is the origin of the African People's Socialist Party. And the influential component of the entity that created the Black Panther Party was one that recognized that the struggle was against colonialism. and that what had occurred with the assassinations and destruction of organization was an assault, as an assassination also on the ideology of a movement, and the replacement of that ideology and the leaders of that movement with the forces that that embraced a philosophy that did not encourage or did not support the struggle for liberation of our people. This is an element of how this is one aspect of how a struggle for national liberation also has within it the class struggle that's raging within that struggle for national liberation. When you talk about national liberation, you're talking about the whole people, everybody in the nation being colonized. The petty bourgeoisie or aspiring petty bourgeoisie, aspiring bourgeoisie, those who got more resources and closer connections to the white power, they also live under an oppressive relationship. We define oppression here differently from a sector of the petty bourgeoisie. Their oppression was an inability or denial by the system to allow them to have full access to all of the resources. They were better off than the rest of us, but they did not have full access that to be a colonizer would afford them. So they had some objections to this relationship, but it couldn't be summed up in the same way as Africans living in housing projects and Africans who in these fields of picking cotton and shaking, picking and shaking peanuts out the ground with their children and things like that. That was a different kind of exploitation, oppression. It would take different things to satisfy our requirements for freedom than it would to satisfy the requirements of a sector of the colonized African population who simply was denied the right to be and act in the same way that the white man or the colonizer was surviving. Anyway, we had this struggle for national liberation, that the entire African nation was involved in that. And our objective as the African People's Socialist Party from our inception was to complete that revolutionary movement. To say that a struggle against racism is just misleading. I was talking even to Comrade Charles Barron today, and we were talking about how the work of the party, African People's Socialist Party, has always been to attack colonialism, and how our work around this question is what helped us to understand that racism is the ideological foundation. Racism is an ideology. It's the ideology foundation of the system of colonial capitalism. It rests upon that foundation, and so you can't end this oppression that we have by attacking the ideas about this oppression. We actually have to attack the relationship, the essence of the thing. That is colonialism itself. And so that's what the party understood. And so as many people had been forced at gunpoint to retreat from the anti-colonial struggle. Many people had said that, well, we can't have revolutionary organizations anymore. You can't have like vanguard organizations that everybody is the vanguard, or that what we have to have now is just build coalitions, because to have a vanguard organization is horrible. To say that somehow to say that there's a vanguard sort of minimizes the significance of everybody else. And so these are the kinds of arguments that we began to hear. And the struggle against colonialism again was relegated to coin a phrase, dustbin of history. And so the party recognized that we had to make this revolution, and we had to have freedom. We had to struggle against colonialism, but we couldn't do it just like that. That we had to solve the problems of the revolution. And some of the problems of the revolution related to the fact that all our forces have been scattered. Well, that's not our forces in terms of the party, but I'm talking about the forces that were about struggling against colonialism. I'm talking about the scattered, people were in prison, people were killed and things like that. The ideas supporting a struggle against colonialism had been laid to waste. And so we had to pull all of this together. We had to start where people were. with the objective, however, to building the revolution. We had to get engaged in what people characterize civil rights movement. We characterize the struggle for democracy, but this was a movement that was not led by the petty bourgeoisie as in the past, who were aspiring to get into the system. This was led by a revolutionary party with the objective to destroy the colonial relationship that we have to white power, to a social system. And so we took on the struggle for rights of the people, recognizing and saying over and over again that if you're really talking about democracy for colonized people, then the highest expression of that democracy has to be self-determination. So yes, let's march against police violence. Let's protest police violence. Let's protest and organize on the jobs and other places where people are being oppressed, Africans are being exploited, et cetera, in horrible ways. Let's take all of that on. With the recognition that within that particular contradiction lies a universal contradiction. That universal contradiction is the whole colonial question and ultimately the colonial mode of production. So that represents itself in 1,000 different ways. The African People's Socialist Party took this on. We had to find a way to unite our movement again, to give it a consciousness of fighting against colonialism. We initiated a process of building the Black is Back coalition. We had to do this because while we had various forces around the country in the United States who were protesting and engaged in certain kind of activity, it was all disconnected. There was no connection. There was no general strategic aim that we were involved in. In fact, the thing that we would constantly having to ask activists, to what end? To what end are you doing this? And we had reached a point where the movement was everything, but the revolution was nothing. And so this is what we had to take on. And so we initiated the process of building the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. And the name Black is Back was something that was really important because they had killed off the revolutionary. They had killed off the Black people's movement. They had killed Malcolm. They had killed King. They had elevated this person, Barack Hussein Obama, as the front, as the face of Black people of the oppressed in this country. And of course, he was somebody who was an un-Black person. He was he had the complexion and everything of an ordinary African person, but he was not of the people. He was somebody who was a substitute that would pacify the imagination and the consciousness of people all around the world, and African people ourselves, here in the United States and elsewhere. So it became necessary for us to make a real statement. This was one of the factors, one of the things that contributed to how we approached the whole question of rebuilding a revolutionary movement. This something happened. We had begun the revolutionary project before Obama was ever a factor, but his presence we didn't start with the Obama being selected by white power to represent it in a Black face. We said this is a factor now that exists that we have to deal with in the process of taking back our power as Black people. And so part of what we had to do is to unite as many forces as possible. We built the Black is Back coalition, and we characterized it Black is Back because the Obama was to be the Pied Piper. He was going to be Black face that was disappearing Black struggle. He was making that something that was no longer necessary. His demeanor, everything. He became the template of how Black people are supposed to act. He became the civilized, dispassionate, cool kind of African that became something that all of us should act like. If you didn't act like Obama, if you didn't talk like Obama, if you got excited, if you screamed loudly about your pain, if you screamed loudly that you had to overturn the social system, then there was something wrong with you because they had created this notion of Obama. Of course, there was Nelson Mandela, who was also that kind of person. So it deprived the African masses of the ability to express our own views and our own ways and things like that. So we said, Black is back. Obama's here, but Black is back. And we initiated, we pulled together, we won participation by a lot of different organizations to create the Black is Back coalition. But the coalition in name only is nothing. And so we had to engage these forces into actions. One of the first actions that we did, the founding, within weeks of the founding of the coalition, we had, let's have a march. Black People's March on the White House, declaring Black is back, and to the world or to ourselves, and letting Black people know it's all right to be Black. It's cool to be Black. It's cool to be for self-determination. It's cool to be more than just hands up, don't shoot. And so this was the thing that we initiated and pulled all of these forces together. And it's been a struggle to consolidate that. The first thing that we did subsequent to that, the first conference that we had following that mobilization, this happened, I think, something like maybe 8 months after after Obama was installed in the White House, something like that, I think, is that the Haiti, this earthquake in Haiti that killed so many people. At our first conference, we determined we were going in as the Black is Back coalition, we were going to go into Miami, where this huge African population, most recently from Haiti, resided, where it was the center of all this oppression that was coming down against Africans coming from Haiti, landing on the shores in Miami and whatever, been put in cages and things like that. Let's go to Haiti. Let's have this moment. And we led a mass demonstration in Miami around the question of Haiti, ending the oppression of Africans from Haiti, taking Africans out of the cages in Miami from Haiti, reparations to Africans in Haiti for not just what France has done, but for the wealth that's been stolen by the United States from Haiti, ending all of that. We did that. That's the very inception to start pulling it together, pulling these forces together. And now, 15 years later, we are marching on the White House. And things have changed considerably since then, in part because of the work that we've done within this coalition, because no organization in the world has resurrected the struggle against colonialism as the African People's Socialist Party and the Black is Back coalition have done. We resurrected that. We made it appropriate to say it. We threw our bodies on the grenade and saying that you don't have to just appease the colonizers, saying words that they like for you to hear in order to get along. And so this is one of the reasons that our movement, that I came under attack, that because it took us away from this arena of trying to find a comfortable slavery, to find a comfortable colonialism, and saying that slavery has to go. Colonialism has to go, that the people have to be totally free, not partially free. They have to be totally free. And this is what we have contributed to. And this is what, as I said before, was responsible for this attack on our movement on July of last year. So we come through this process of mass jailings in terms of the murder of our movement, our leaders. We come through a process of targeted killings. You know, there was something like a 500% increase in the numbers of people thrown into prisons in this country following the advent of the Black Power movement in this country, the Black Panther organization, SWAT teams and special militarized forces were created to crush the African Revolution. In fact, reached a point where the system could no longer rely on just ordinary white people acting as elements of the state to lynch and beat us up and doing things like that, and created specialized military forces to contain and oppress African people. And that's what SWAT teams were. And then beyond SWAT teams, to militarize police organizations throughout this country, so that the Pentagon had an appearance in every neighborhood. They called it things like excess weapons that they were providing for these local governments. But this became part of the Pentagon budget, that they budgeted enough that they can put resources, tanks even, explosives, all kinds of munitions into cities all around this country. This was a part of the thing that happened. So We had the advent of these neo-colonial puppets. We're looking at this today. People are complaining about an Eric Adams. Eric Adams, by the way, spoke to the first tribunal on reparations that the African People's Socialist Party organized in New York City in 1982. That was before he was the mayor. He became, he is somebody who they've used. They've used both neo-colonial puppets that put in place through the electoral arena and also within the popular movements, people who would carry out the will of the rulers of this country, function sometimes in government, and this has become the popular way, the most appropriate way, the strategic way that they have implemented thuggishness, colonial power in our own communities through the government. People run for office, they become members of city council, they become members of various other legislative components, and then they were the ones who were appointed as chiefs of police. They were the ones who were made wardens in prisons and things like that. The neo-colonial strategy was something that they began to implement throughout our communities and throughout this country, et cetera, as a part of the domestic colony. This is what we were looking at. This is what, our movement has had to contend with all the time. And it's important to say this because people are confused about how you have this black cop, or you have this black president, you have this black general, you have this black people who our oppressors would tell us represent progress for our people on the one hand, but actually what it was an instrument that they used to oppress the people in our own face. So this is part of what it is that we had to deal with. So the anti-colonial character of the Black liberation movement have been compromised and obscured and replaced with accommodationist politics of assimilationism. This became what we were affected by. And Obama became the high expression of this neo-colonial project, white colonial power with the face of black colonized oppressed people. So the surviving militants of the 1960s were scattered and the revolutionary agenda destroyed, and the Black is Back founding revitalized our struggle by bringing together the various forces who were talking about self-determination, committed to self-determination, and placed us on a strategic trajectory with growing numbers of political and ideological, growing number of organizations from across the political and ideological spectrum in this country. So that's what we're looking at now. And we're looking at this assault that was made on the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement in July of last year, because we have begun to reverse the tide, the consequences of this military assault, the aggression that's been made against not just African people, but African people as part of the anti-colonial front and a critical part of the anti-colonial front in the whole world. Africans in this country, located in what they characterize as the belly of the beast, the critical forces. This is what made the FBI leader at one time in the 1960s, I think it was 69, defined the Black Panther Party as the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States since the Civil War, because the struggle of Black people for freedom is a critical struggle against the whole colonial project in the world. And so that's what it is that we are dealing with, and that's why they had to come and attack us. And now, unlike in the 1960s, when they succeeded in killing us off, as Africans, they succeeded in killing Mexican revolutionaries inside this country and various other places, and they were able to kill other peoples around the world without the kinds of expression of outrage and unity that the people deserve. Today, things have changed considerably, and we have succeeded in pulling together this project of anti-colonial forces within the United States and beyond the United States. It includes forces who from places like Venezuela. We're talking about Filipinos. We're talking about various other kinds of people who have united to come together. And we're talking about the whites who are settlers. And some people may hear this as an insult. It's not some pejorative that I'm using. I'm talking about trying to use as scientifically as I can a designation of these relationships. That people wouldn't get that upset if I call them white. but white is an artificial, it's a political designation. That I've never seen a white person. So that's just a bogus thing. I'm talking about colonialism. I'm talking about settlers who took this land from the indigenous population and stuck them in concentration camps. If you don't say settlers, you can't explain why you don't see indigenous people walking down the streets in your communities every day. That's a part of the fundamental contradiction that everybody's confronted with, especially indigenous people. If you don't call them settlers, you can't have a decent explanation for why I am here in this country as opposed to in Africa, from where I was kidnapped. And then you can be confused about who the hell I am. Like you're confused by who the settlers are. If you just call them white people that somehow materialized in this land, stolen from the indigenous people, when I say indigenous, I mean the Mexicans, I mean all the people who are south of that Canadian border. I mean people on the other side of the Canadian border. I'm talking about these, the traditional custodians of this land, and settlers have come and taken this land and taken their freedom, taken their rights, taken their future away from them, stole the whole future away from the people, and fight to defend what they have taken with various kinds of weaponry that they have developed. And that's not only in this country, but that's part of what we look at across the whole world, the entire colonial project, the whole colonial mode of production, the whole way things are produced, the whole life system that exists on the earth today came about as a consequence of for the first time in history a global economy that stretches from one part of the world to the other. There's not a particular element of economic activity that does not occur within this this system of a colonial mode of production. There's not a kiss that's given, a song that's sang in this country that's not influenced by this economic base of colonialism, a whole economy resting upon the foundation of the theft of land, labor, resources of a people. That's what colonialism is. That's what the whole production process is. And it's not just a matter of making shoes and stuff like that. It's making music. It's making babies. Everything that we do happens within that particular mode of production. That's the thing that we are talking about. We're stuck in this mode of production. It has to be overturned. You overturn this mode of production so that people can be free and not have some parasitic relationship that's responsible for every hardship that everyone throughout the world is experiencing right now in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, and in white communities as well. So this is what we are talking about. And now we're talking about this rupture of this colonial mode of production, of this process that where different contending forces are fighting for power within it, from China to Russia to the United States, engaged in battles within it, Iran. All of these forces are fighting within this process, and this is something that's destabilizing, undermining, and challenging the colonial mode of production altogether. And now you have this influence, the growing influence of a Russia that they thought they had crushed, a China that never was supposed to have any chances at all, but independent of its own consciousness today, is a part of this struggle, this thrust that's being made by colonized people around the world to change our relationship to the social system. This is what we're looking at, this convergence of all kinds of contradictions within the colonial mode of production. That's the thing that makes this so important. So on November 4th, we're going to have all these people coming from everywhere. It's our job to organize them in the various locations where we are. It's our job, those of us who are participating in this study, to recognize the significance of this mobilization that we're talking about for November 4th. For the first time in history, to have a movement within the United States, within the borders of the United States, that is clearly being led by anti-colonial forces. And this is the thing that's going to make it necessary for the settlers who want to be on the right side of history to pick sides. They've never been forced in the way we are asking for this to happen now, to pick sides. That there's a clear decision that you have to make, not just do you like Black people, do you treat your Mexican cook well, or something to that effect. The point today that we are confronted with is picking sides, because you want to hold on to the past, which is the oppression, which is on the theft of this land, which is the
the genocide that's been committed to the indigenous peoples here, et cetera. You want to hold on to the ability to be able to go to your local supermarket and get food and vegetables that's out of season, because in this country, but it's in season some other place around the world where people are starving, picking bananas when they're green and can't be eaten there, and put in freezers and shipped to your communities, et cetera. This is an untenable world. And so we know that, and we know that this system is experiencing explosive challenges right now. We see it in Africa. We see it in Palestine. We see it in communities throughout the United States. Let's pull it together. Let's do something fundamental to change the world. And that's what this November 4th is calling for. All of us to do that. The settlers, you can betray the whole relationship that you have to white power, what you like to refer to as white privilege. You can betray that. The way you betray it is not by giving your maid more resources or something to that effect. The way you betray it is to come onto the side of those who are colonized, that gives you the ability to give your maid something or to have a maid altogether. This is what's being called on today. And so November 4th, all out for November 4th. And we are saying that hands off Uhuru, because we know that the attack on the Uhuru movement is an attack on the African Revolution. We know that the attack on the Uhuru movement is the attack on every struggle, democratic rights that we're looking at within the United States and much of the world. Say hands off Uhuru. This is a fight back coalition that is in motion now. And that we are saying also that we refuse to go back. Nobody's going back to the old handkerchief head, bootlicking, buck dancing role that white power would have us in, shuffling along to get along. We're not doing that anymore. If we do anything like that, it's going to be called Ali. What's it called? Ali Shuffle. And so, so we're asking everybody to endorse, to participate in this Black coalition, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. The 15th annual Black People's March on the White House for November 4th, 2023 is happening in Washington, D.C. It's happening in Los Angeles, California. It's happening in Pretoria, South Africa. It's happening in London, England, and possibly in Australia and Venezuela and some other places around the world. Let's do this thing. Let's go ahead all out for November 4th. It might as well be victorious. Let's end the misery and suffering of the peoples of the world and not be intimidated by the capacity of a colonizer to wreak mayhem. That's what our lives have always been as colonial subjects. We live with it every day. That's why it's very hard for many people, most people who are colonized, to be taken in by this notion that somehow in Palestine people have initiated some kind of unprovoked attack when the state of Israel itself is a provocation of the rights of the Palestinian people to even live. For every aspect, every day, the children are dying early deaths, and people are being locked up in prison. And all these people who say they hate the Trump wall in Mexico, they're lying, because if they hate the wall in Mexico, they'd hate the walls that's being created throughout occupied Palestine. We say the people have to be free. And we say that people have to have agency. And we say that those of us, all of us, have a responsibility to come together to build this remarkable movement. This is a historic occasion that we have before us. All power to the people, Black power to the African nation. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. All out to the Black People's March on the White House on November 4th. Just really want to salute that profound overview. I just really want to acknowledge how it takes us, well, first, it almost serves as like a timeline, historical timeline to show, just all of these profound struggles that occurred, was occurring throughout the world, was crushed and, fought against by the counterinsurgency, the colonial powers. But and how we are, in this place today, and how you just clarified, just like this place in the world and the significance of this march, and how this march and this movement and your leadership and the African People's Socialist Party, pushing all of these struggles that are roiling throughout the world on the trajectory of challenging and ultimately destroying the colonial mode of production. That, just is truly profound, and it can be seen. There's evidence of this happening, occurring, in the world today. And just the whole thing of, the question at this moment is, what side are you on? And the choice has to be completely unambiguous. There's no, teetering around it. It's, are you on the side of the oppressed, the exploited, colonized peoples of the world? Or are you on the side of the oppressor, on the side of this parasitic social system, on continuing to suck the blood and resources of the people and creating misery and devastation for the people and the planet? This is the critical moment in history where, that choice has to be very decisive. And the African People's Socialist Party and African internationalism has drawn the line in the sand. So I really want to salute, again, just your leadership in this brilliant overview. And we have some other panelists that we want to talk to today with regard to the Black People's March on the White House, including comrades who are organizing mobilizations to happen across the world. And joining us all the way from London, England today in Europe is Comrade Secretary General Luwezi Kinshasa, who we'd like to bring on today to talk about just the significance of this mobilization and why it's necessary to have a demonstration right there in London. So Uhuru, Comrade Secretary General Luwezi Kinshasa, I want to welcome you on today and thank you for joining us during the Omali Taught Me. Uhuru.
Yes. Uhuru, Director Kide, thank you for inviting me to this program. And I just want to, first of all, salute Chairman Matsemela, not just for the brilliant overview he has done, but also for leading the program from yesterday. And I want to salute you, Director Akile, and Chair Mwezi, for being splendid co-chairs of the program yesterday. It was excellent. And if you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch the study from yesterday. I also want to salute the comrades from London who are working very hard to make these events to happen. And of course, I salute all the co-panelists that were present to this very rich program that everyone should share if you have not yet share it. In London, of course, as Dr. Kida said, we're going to have the event on the 4th of November. We'll be having 2 events. First, we will be outside the U.S. Embassy on the 4th of November between 12 and 2 p.m. And then at 5 p.m., we will be having a conference. So it's going to be a packed event. But I just want to say basically why it's significant. You already heard what Chairman said. These events will be taking place in more than one place, and it's so critical to win the African nation, to struggle, to go in the same direction. It's so important for the African nation that the struggle to overturn colonialism as a mode of production becomes center stage of the struggle as it was in the 50s and the 60s. And if you know anything about England, you will see here the struggle basically since the defeat of the Black Power movement, the petit bourgeoisie in alliance with the colonial bourgeoisie, they have been able to reduce the struggle just for the rights to practice Black culture without having power. You hear things like diversity, we're fighting for equalities and things like that. When in reality, as long as you have colonialism as a foundation of capitalism, basically as a foundation is the mode of production, which is colonialism, there is no way you can have equalities between the colonizers and the colonized African nation. It is not just possible. And I have a publication, the current newspaper of the African People bourgeoisie is known as The Voice. That gives you the context we're operating under right here in Britain. And that's why the mobilization we're doing for the 4th of November is significant. In addition to what's going on around the world, the question of Palestine, the war in Ukraine, and other things. But just reading from this newspaper, there was a survey. A survey was carried out by the bourgeoisie university, top leading universities here. You've got Oxford, where the chairman spoke in 2019, and also Cambridge. So most of the leaders in this country, they come from those two institutions. They might come from others, but these two institutions, two universities are dominant. So these colonial university did a survey. 10,000 Black people were surveyed. And these are the conclusions. Number one, because there are quite a few, in terms of the criminal justice, just 1% of Black people were surveyed trust the system. Just 1% trust the system. 79% say stop and search used unfairly. Stop and search is a counterinsurgency policy of the British government to contain the Black community, particularly young Black people, so the police can stop you anywhere, anyhow on the street, and collect information, even if you don't end up in prison or being criminal, even charged are not pressed against you. But generally speaking, is an encounter that definitely shocks most of the young Black people who face that. But 79% basically say stop and search used unfairly. 39%, nearly 40%, don't see Britain as their permanent home. 39% don't see Britain as their permanent home. You also have 80% say racism is biggest barrier to educational achievement. And remove the word racism and put colonialism. So you would say 80% say colonialism is biggest barrier to educational achievement. And you have 89% say Black patients get worse healthcare. 89% say Black patients, people go to hospitals, to see the GPs and clinics, to get treatment, to get medical treatment. Basically, they say 89% of Black get worse healthcare. And the last two I'm going to read, this one in terms of identity, just 1 in 10 definitely proud to be British. Just 1 in 10 definitely proud to be British. This is serious crisis. So most of Black people don't see themselves, or we don't see ourselves as British. This is the national question, the African nationality question. And they said race, and I say replace race by nation, because Africans don't know. We're talking about the national question, no racism being central, but the question of freeing the African nation. We see ourselves as part of the African nation. So let's say race more important than religion, and yes. So the last one, and this will take us basically to the significance of this protest, of this event we're doing on the 4th of November. In terms of workplace, 90%, 98%, almost 100%, 98% have to compromise who they are at workplace. You can't criticize colonizers. You can't wear your afro. You can't be yourself. And you can't particularly criticize the policies of the colonizers at workplace. And most Africans know that. They don't talk to the colonizers. They don't say exactly what they think of the colonized society where they're living, because they don't want to lose their job. And this goes straight to the free speech. Free speech. We don't have free speech. We go fight for free speech. Because at work, you can't criticize the colonizers openly. Everyone will call you aside and say, don't say this. My manager is watching. My manager is listening, and so on. And this is fundamental. It's just to recognize we are colonized people. We are not free. It's quite clear. This survey, of course, they have different conclusions to ours, but the point is that this is a survey coming from the ruling class. So it's something we're looking into, and we definitely use that more to expose our colonial conditions and the need for us to organize to free ourselves as a colonized people. Now, Britain is also a place that you can't separate it from what's going on in Palestine, in occupied Palestine, because Britain played a key role in the creation of this illegitimate Israel settler state, because it was the British who facilitated that. Remember, before the United States became the leading white power nation in the world, Britain used to be the leading colonial white colonial power in the world. So they facilitated the capture of the Palestinian land so they can transfer that to the Zionists, to the Jewish settlers. So they played that role. And as even we're talking now, they have made it clear they stand by the state of Israel. It's quite clear, there's no wavering or no, they stand by. And at the same time, the Home Office Minister of this country, of England, said that waving the Palestinian flag should be made a criminal offense. So basically supporting Palestinian struggle has to be criminalized. That's what they're working on. So that's why the protests we're doing, no one step backwards, defend free speech is significant, because that's what we're talking about. They don't want us to have free speech, and free speech is necessary. We have to criticize the colonizers. We have to criticize the white colonial society, and we have to support clearly anybody who's fighting against colonialism, because we understand this is the foundation of world capitalism. So if you want a world that is free of colonizers and colonized, free from bosses and workers and so on, you have to support the anti-colonial struggle of the people of Palestine. And waving the flags of Palestine, that's what people are doing. I had the opportunity to be in a demonstration in Palestinian early this week. It was just magnificent. Palestinian flags everywhere. And that's how we should be doing. Doing our event, having so many flags, the RBC flags, that's something we're working on. But, basically, we need to have thousands of flags. You can't miss that when you go to the demonstration in favor of Palestine. I want to say one more thing regarding the free, why we need to defend the free speech, why we need to demand that the charges against Chairwoman and two other comrades, the whole free, as the companies know, to be dropped. In France, and Belgium, the government has banned most of the demonstration in support of Palestine. People demonstrated anyway. People were arrested and so on, but they banned demonstration. And you remember France brags about being the center of the Bill of Rights, of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But to support Palestine, to organize protests for Palestine, they made it illegal. And the Communist Party of France, the French Communist Party, who used to be a powerful organization in the 50s and the 60s, up to the late 90s, I think it was powerful. They used to get like 20% of the French votes during the presidential elections. They firmly condemned Hamas counter attack or counter offensive or resistance, as we know it happened on the 7th of October. They've condemned that. They firmly condemned that. And it's not just the French Communist Party. I noticed that most of the people on the left, so-called left in Europe, before they say they support the Palestinian struggle, they have to condemn their Hamas attacks. They have to condemn that. But what's the difference between Nat Turner leading the struggle against colonialism in Virginia, in the US, and Hamas leading the attack to get back the land? It's both a struggle against colonialism, right? So would you condemn Nat Turner? It's the same thing. So the Palestinians, Malcolm X used to say, freedom by any means necessary. So they have the right to get the land back. And of course, I'm just giving this example just to see what's going on in the world. So for the 4th of November, we are going to have Africans from different places. We're having Africans from New Papua Guinea. They will be there, they confirmed. They will be there outside the US Embassy with us, and also at the conference. We're going to have Africans from Jamaica, like Brother Cecil Gatsmo, who is a professor of university, is well known, and he is definitely down. If the Uhuru invites me, he counts on me. I'll be there. So he confirms participation. We're going to have Africans from Somali fighting against the genocide of the Amharic people, and so on. We're going to have Africans from Congo. So basically, we talking now to the Africans from Angola. The Africans are born here. So it's going to be an event where Africans will come together and unite and demand that the charge against Uhuru to be dropped, but it's also a struggle to get the anti-colonial trajectory to become the norm in the Black community everywhere. And we have an indirect success, like the reparation is definitely the key dominant demand you see coming from the Black community in terms of, militant, if I might say so, the militant groups, reparation. And that is definitely the leadership of chairman of the African People's Socialist Party. That reparation has put everyone in this anti-colonial trajectory, and we're adding another layer to that anti-colonial trajectory by getting the question of free speech becoming center stage. That we have the right definitely to criticize the Israeli state society. We have the right to criticize the British colonial society. We have to criticize everybody whose life depends on colonialism as the mode of production. We have the right to defend every aspect of that. So we're going to have Africans traveling from Manchester, coming to London, Africans coming from France, Africans coming from Germany. So it's going to be a great event. Usually, from what I've seen, is around the ALD, you will see Africans, coming together, coming to a big event. But now we're adding more. Don't wait for the ALD before you say, I'm going to come to London, we're going to be together. No. Now, in fact, this event is going to help us to begin to prepare for the ALD. So we need to maximize our mobilization, out which it's happening. Every week we are out, but now we have about 20 days to go. So more work needs to be done, not just the weekend, but during the week. We need to tie up all the end loose. So we can have definitely a powerful event. So one thing I can say, the 4th of November is going to be part of those processes that definitely you can look back later and say, we are in a new place. And I'm glad to be part of this movement, the African People's Socialist Party, part of this party, part of the Uhuru movement. We're changing the world, and it's really obvious. And 4th of November is just one place where we can say, as I said, the world will never be the same again. So there is no limit. Let's push very hard for the next 20 days, so we can definitely exceed whatever we have done before in the previous mobilization to organize against the FBI attack on our chairman, on our comrades. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's basically some of the things I want to say. I might add one more thing. I didn't say that. Just in contradiction to the British government, to the French government, to the Belgian government, attacking the right of the people to defend Palestine, CARICOM, which is not a revolution organization, is a neo-colonial organization of the African government in the Caribbean. They call for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. When the United States and the French clearly are saying they stand side by side, and their support is rock solid. It's just incredible. So in a place where the struggle against colonialism has to become really the norm. So I salute everyone listening. So,
Uhuru, that was Secretary General Luwezi Kinshasa, based in London, talking about the mobilization that'll be occurring there on November 4th in tandem with these demonstrations, mobilizations, the Black People's March and rally and conferences, all happening November 4th. And also want to just direct people to blackpeoplesmarch.com, where you can find information about the London mobilization. I really want to salute this presentation, SG Luwezi, which I thought really exemplified, you know, the campaign slogan, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, and just this really fundamental shift that we see happening in the world today. And as you said, you know, the world has changed and it will never be the same again. And that's why we say forward ever, backwards never. And this is truly drumming up so much excitement and anticipation for November 4th. And we have some more dynamic speakers that we have to get to. And I want to travel now to occupied Azania, or what's characterized as South Africa today, another illegitimate settler colony. And overall, you know, just the colonial borders inside of Africa that were carved up by Europeans, defined by the colonizer, against the will of African people ourselves. But we are, you know, turning the history right side up. And we're joined by Director Tafarie Mugeri, all the way in occupied Azania, to talk to us about the demonstration that will be happening in Pretoria, South Africa. So Uhuru, Comrade Director Tafarie, welcome.
Uhuru, Comrade Director Akile Anayi, I want to salute you, Comrade. And also, of course, I want to salute the program, and you know, I really want to salute my leadership, the leader and founder of the Uhuru movement, Chairman Omali, Yeshitela. I want to salute, you know, my direct leadership, as Luwezi, who have just spoken before me here. So as you have already said, I'm Tafarie Mugeri, and I'm based here in occupied Azania, settler colony, South Africa, you know. So Chairman has already talked about Nelson Mandela and so forth. And, you know, we live in this place that's supposed to be a rainbow nation, you know, whereby you have like African people being the, you know, the rightful owners of the land here. And we are about 80% of the population, but then more than 80% of the land is in the hands of only 7% of the population, which is the colonizer population, you know, Europeans, white people. And this is something that we were born into here, as, you know, someone my age, you know, and this, it's been the case for decades and centuries. And we don't really get an explanation for it. And you find that there are a lot of people that out there trying to speak out, trying to educate people about what South Africa really is, you know, which is a settler colony, and trying to really, you know, talk about the experiences of colonized African workers in the townships. I'm in a township right now. We always are, you know, experiencing issues around electricity, power outages. A lot of people don't have jobs. There's like 72% of youth unemployment in South Africa. There's more than like about 46% of unemployment in general. I heard someone talking about Palestine and saying that the unemployment rate in Palestine is one of the worst in the world, and said about 46%. I was like, okay, one of the worst in the world with 46%. And that's the reality with South Africa as well. And, you know, but then that's not what's being exposed about this country. You know, when it's talked about in the world, they talk about it being having achieved democracy, freedom in 1994, which is almost 30 years now. And within that 30 years, you're seeing that the gap between the colonizer population and the colonized population in terms of wealth is greater right now. You know, we've already talked about unemployment. There's just a lot of issues. Every township that we live in is infested with like this, you know, like drugs from the chemical warfare. So we experience counterinsurgency on a daily basis, what they refer to as police brutality. You know, like, you know, people being killed on the streets by the police and stuff. This is happening every time. But then we are not allowed, you know, the space to speak about all these things that we are experiencing. So there is always, you know, the silencing of the voices of the oppressed by the bourgeois media. You know, the bourgeoisie control the media. And I'm saying this because when you look at what's happening with Palestine, like, you want to go to YouTube just to get some information about this thing that's happening there. And all you're hearing is, you know, these terrorists, you know, like airstrikes into Israel, innocent people dying and so forth. But then They never say anything about how the thing was born. And the Palestinians and their liberation movement and so forth, their voices are never heard. You know, so right now, like we're talking about Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru in the US, like our voices, colonized people, talking about African people must have self-determination and so forth, criticizing US imperialism in terms of how it deals with colonized people all over the world. You know, Chairman Omali has been doing that for years, and he's being silenced. You know, the imperialism, you know, the US government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation wants to silence the chairman, Chairman Omali, through these bogus indictments, you know. So we're experiencing this all over the world. So how can we do this? Like right now, there's lots of movements, you know, actions all over the world, mobilizations to really stand up and express solidarity towards Palestine. And regardless of whether the bourgeois media wants to, you know, publicize this or not, because we're living in the era of social media and so forth, people are getting access to this, so they cannot contain it anymore. So we have to be able to do this ourselves. We cannot depend on the bourgeoisie, you know, to popularize our movement. We cannot depend on the bourgeoisie to promote our struggle for total liberation. African people all over the world are colonized, and right now, because we have the African Socialist International, we have access to one another as African people. I'm here in South Africa. I'm talking to comrades who are in the US, and these are Africans. And when they articulate their experience, I can relate to that, because that's the same thing. It's colonialism. You know, it's African people living under colonial domination in the US and in South Africa. The regional chair, the West Africa regional chair for this African People's Socialist Party is in Sierra Leone. He's a member of this party, the African People's Socialist Party. In Namibia, we have the Southern Africa regional chair, who is over there, and it's the same thing, you know. So we have, you know, we are rebuilding the movement of Marcus Garvey, you know, for one Africa, one nation all over the world. So we don't have to rely on our enemies for us to be able to connect and advance our interest. So in the same breath, I want to talk about what we're going to be doing in on the 4th of November in Pretoria, which is the capital of South Africa, this settler colony. So we're going to go there, and that's where the US embassy is located, in Pretoria's street, Arcadia, in Pretoria, to the US embassy. The flyer is out. You can go to the African People's Socialist Party Africa region, and then you will get that, or you can simply go to handsofuhuru.org and you'll get information about this this November 4th demonstration that's going to be taking place at in Pretoria. We're going to go live around this. Most of the people that are going to be participating there, that we are organizing with, are going to be coming from this township in Forgeville, but we are communicating with other organizations for them to participate in this. And like Luwezi said, we're going to tie this with everything that imperialism is up to, including what is happening in Niger, including what is happening in Palestine, because it's a global economy, it's a global social system that's oppressing colonized people all over the world. So this, we are at war. It's we are contending on different spheres. On the ideological front, we are contending on the you know, military front, on the political front, on all sorts of fronts, and then we have to avail ourselves and be prepared and, you know, be determined that the enemy cannot succeed this time. They cannot succeed this time, because we are seeing it, regardless of the fact that when you go to YouTube, all you hear is about how the terrorists are attacking Israel. When you go to the news, it's the same thing. The newspapers is the same thing. But at the same time, the movement, the mobilization to support and stand in solidarity with the Palestinians is growing stronger, far more stronger than what they're trying to convince us, you know, in terms of the settler, you know, colonial state of Israel there. So let's go to Pretoria on the 4th of November here in South Africa, and participate in this demonstration at the U.S. Embassy in in unity with what's going to be happening in Washington D.C. With the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace and Reparations, together with the Hands of Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. So I'm going to end it there in Africa. So Uhuru.
Uhuru, all out to November 4th, get to Pretoria, South Africa. And I just really want to appreciate Director Tafarie. And part of our struggle is also, we say the borders have to go, the colonial borders in Africa have to go, and Africa for Africans, those at home and those abroad. That is the cry initiated by Marcus Garvey that we carry the torch in the African People's Socialist Party. Really want to salute Director Tafarie, and what was just described, you can, just hear the universal conditions of African people everywhere it is that we are. And it's always characterized as something, it's characterized as racism, it's discrimination, it's apartheid, and it's always called everything but what it is, which is the colonial mode of production as the basis of why it is that everywhere you look throughout the world, on the continent of Africa and everywhere we've been dispersed, the conditions of our people are, mirror, the exact same, situation. And so this is why, the colonial mode of production must be destroyed. So Uhuru, Director Tafarie, thank you for joining us, and going to our next speaker and trying to make sure that everybody is equipped with as much information as possible to be able to participate in any one of the mobilizations, depending on where you are in the world, being able to participate in any of these mobilizations. We want to make sure that you have access to this information, that you know how this is different from any other march, protest, demonstration that's ever happened. This is different. And I want to just bring up somebody else who was going to, help get us mobilized and excited about this march. And that's Comrade President Matsemela Odom. He is the president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And, one thing is that this march is calling on all freedom-loving people and all those who stand in solidarity with the right of African and colonized people to organize, for our freedom. So want to welcome up Comrade President, again, Matsemela Odom, representing the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which was, an organization founded to push back the counterinsurgency, which crushed our movement of the 60s. So we're in a different period now, and, we say this time we will win. So Uhuru, Comrade President Matsemela, Uhuru.
Uhuru, I want to salute you. I want to salute all the speakers of the panel, the people that are coming after me. So Chairman Yeshitela, Secretary General Luwezi Kinshasa, Director Tafarie. I know Chairman Mwezi and others are going to be on as well. As you all know, I'm International President of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. The International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement was formed in 1991 to defend the democratic rights of African people, to bring African people back into political life after the military assault against the Black Power movement. As an organization who fights for the democratic rights of African people, we understand that it's important to struggle for the democratic rights of African people, but underneath the leadership of a revolutionary party, the African People's Socialist Party, for the purpose of keeping us on our revolutionary trajectory, never abandoning the objectives of the African liberation struggle. So these are all very, very important points and important reasons why Impediment is organizing for the Black People's March on the White House. As the president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, I'm also helping to organize the West Coast contingency of the Black People's March on the White House, of which we're happy to say we have scores of organizations in unity, Black is Back Committee, Black is Back Steering Committee member organizations and others mobilizing for this event that will take place in South Los Angeles on November 4th, Saturday, November 4th. Now, And the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement just recently organized our national convention in St. Louis, Missouri, which was titled Deepening the Counteroffensive, Completing the Black Power Movement. This time we will win. Understanding the point that impedum wages the counteroffensive against colonial capitalism by bringing Africans back into political life. So central to this is also going to be, is we understand branch building and membership drive campaigns, bringing the masses of people into the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. This is central. This is central to how we are organizing for the November 4th mobilizations. And PDM is organizing outreach teams in every single place where we see there are marches to go out there and win the people who show up into membership in the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. Understanding that not every person who joins might even become an organizer or something like that, but we also know that quantity will get you quality. We need to go out there and just bring as many people in. This is important. So we're taking the Get on the Bus campaign. We're taking Impedim's platform to the people. Impedim's platform is the Revolutionary National Democratic Program, some of which we already heard about. We're taking this to the people as a part of an outreach strategy campaign. We have weekly in London a webinar called "What is Democracy to the African Working Class?" People can register for that by going to tinyurl.com/democracy question. Central to this campaign is the Hands Off Shania campaign, in which we're fighting against gentrification, the unhousing of African people by the colonial state. What I think is important about the Uhuru movement is that some organizations just exist to throw events. Our organization uses these events as a reflection of the work that we are consistently involved in. One organizer who it will be at the LA mobilization on November 4th, told Chairman Mwezi, said he wanted to salute the party, so salute Chairman Mwezi and the Uhuru movement because for the tenacity of work that we do. And that's what's going to be important. On Thursdays, we have the RNDP mass studies of the Revolutionary National Democratic Program here set in the United States. As well, coming out of South Africa, we have a series of webinars. All these things being used to push forward the November 4th March, Black People's March that's taking place in DC, as well as the satellite mobilizations that are taking place all around the world. Now, lastly, Impedum was organized as a reserve force for the party. So it's in that capacity that underneath the leadership of the party, Impedum is organizing get on the bus drives, in which we have people coming from St. Louis, Chicago, Lexington, Kentucky, Florida, New York, New Jersey. We're organizing people. To do this, we are organizing Sunday rallies, street outreach, phone banking campaigns, and all sorts of other drives to get people on the bus, to get people to these mobilizations. Lastly, what I want us to do, I want to salute Impedim's participation in the Uhuru 3 tours, featuring Chairwoman Yeshitela, Chairwoman Penny Hess, and Chair Jesse Neville, that have taken place on the East Coast, on the West Coast over the last month. These really have become important catalysts towards us getting the word out, getting people to DC, London, Pretoria, Los Angeles, and elsewhere on November 4th. So I just want to say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. We're winning.
Uhuru, we are winning. Uhuru, salute President Matsemela Odom. And as we move into our last couple of speakers, I just want to, just reiterate the significance of impedum and this whole question of democratic rights of African people. And Chairman reminds us that all of the democratic space that's been opened up in this country came as a result of tremendous bloodshed of African people. And no one has shed more blood. When we talk about democratic rights, we're talking about access to the electoral arena. We're talking about the right to freedom of speech, to be able to say and advocate in our own interests. This is the kind of democratic space that the struggle of African people has opened up in this country for, all types of forces. This is a thing that is, come under attack. They want to take us back. They want to take back these democratic this democratic space that we fought so hard to achieve, but they will not be successful. And that is clearly evident in this whole discussion we've been able to have up to now. And so we're going to go back to St. Louis, Missouri, to speak with Jesse Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, is also one of the Uhuru Three, and is also representing Chairwoman Penny Hess, the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, as well as one of the Uhuru Three. And as part of the Black is Back, Black People's March on the White House, there's a reparations contingent. And this reparations contingent is an example of standing in solidarity, and solidarity being is not a matter of just well-wishing, as Che Guevara once said, that it's not a matter of well-wishing, and that being a part of the reparations contingent is taking that stand, is picking a side, in this critical moment in history. So I want to welcome up Comrade Jesse Neville to the program. Uhuru, Jesse.
Uhuru Director Akile, thank you so much. It's an honor to be a part of this Omali Taught Me study, and I am going to be presenting a statement prepared by Chairwoman Penny Hess. I will be reading this on Chairwoman Penny's behalf, who is currently resting her voice after being a bit under the weather recently. I want to start by saluting the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and say that the African People's Solidarity Committee is the white organization formed by and led by the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela to extend the African Revolution behind enemy lines into the colonizer white population and win white people to the stand of reparations to African people and unity with the anti-colonial struggle of African people for Black power and self-determination. We salute our leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and I want to salute the incredible presentation that the chairman gave earlier today in this study, and recognize what the chairman said, that in the face of the assault by the US government on the organization, the leaders, and the ideas of the African Revolution, the chairman has fought for more than 50 years to rebuild the Black Revolution. And the colonial question is once again sweeping the world today because of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. We also want to salute Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela, who has taken the philosophy of African internationalism and implemented it in practical form in the many anti-colonial economic and political programs of the Uhuru movement, even in the face of economic warfare and repression by the US colonial state. And I also want to salute Director Akile, Chair Mwezi, Director Tafarie, Secretary General Luwezi Kinshasa, President Matsemela, all of the panelists today. From APSC, we are honored and so excited to participate in the historic 15th annual Black People's March on the White House. Our responsibility as APSC is to organize the reparations contingent of white people who will march in solidarity with the African liberation movement under the leadership of the anti-colonial free speech movement. So as Chairwoman Penny has written here, not since the historic mobilization in Plains, Georgia and San Francisco to free Desi Woods and smash colonial violence on July 4th, 1978, has the party held such a significant bi-coastal mobilization. The mobilization on November 4th in Washington and Los Angeles, as well as other locations throughout the world, is critical for advancing the struggle to drop the charges on the Uhuru Three. White people must play a role as the genuine representation of the white colonizer population, organized under the leadership of the vanguard of the African Revolution, to show other white people the way forward. If Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru Three are silenced and imprisoned, the rights of everyone will be silenced, just as this was true in the 1960s in the face of the murderous US counterinsurgency against the African Revolution of the 1960s. This historic bi-coastal mobilization is profoundly significant in advancing the anti-colonial free speech movement. It is a mobilization that has support and participation from a wide range of African and colonized peoples and organizations. It is critical that as white people, we have a strong representation of the reparations contingent, both in DC and in Los Angeles. And I just want to mention that Chairwoman Penny will be in Los Angeles as one of the Uhuru Three, leading the reparations contingent there. This is the opportunity, Chairwoman Penny continues, to show the white left, white people in general, Jews and others, that the road to genuine international solidarity, socialism, and any progressive future for humanity and the planet is painted black, led by the African People's Socialist Party, whose leadership and embrace encompasses the entire anti-colonial movement and peoples of the world. In the face of the powerful resistance in occupied Palestine and the brutal US-backed counterinsurgency, we must mobilize white people to this stand. The significance of the existence of the African People's Socialist Party as the vanguard party of the African working class, which has always thrown itself on the grenade to plow through the ideological colonial fences imposed on the African liberation movement, paving the way for the African and world revolution, has always been profound. But the significance of the leadership of the party has perhaps never been more apparent than in this period. The party has survived and fought like hell to lead out of the period of the imposition of the counterinsurgent neo-colonial ideology of assimilationism, anti-racism, etc. It has brought the entire world back to the primacy of the colonial question, the colonial mode of production, front and center. It is the relationship of colonizers under the leadership of the African Revolution, which is the redemption of white people and lets us establish a principled relationship to African people and make our self-criticism. Without the party and without Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the world would be mired in mere resistance that is vulnerable to both organizational and ideological counterinsurgency. The chairman has elevated the entire world, and white people can and must be a part of this. It is also important to note that the 1978 marches to free Desi Woods were also about smashing colonial violence. That was the slogan, fighting for the colonial question, fighting for the leadership of the African nation, and taking the question of the colonial violence towards African women into the provenance of the African nation, taking it away from the white left and feminists. So I want to close by just really unite with this statement from Chairwoman Penny Hess and say that, as the chairman said earlier, the settlers have to pick a side. We can choose the side of the colonized because in their struggle to defeat colonialism, there is the genuine positive future for all of humanity. So we call on white people to organize a group from your city, rent a van, get on the bus, get on the plane, come to Washington, D.C., come to LA, and you can go to uhurusolidarity.org to find out more how you can be a part of the reparations contingent, unity through reparations, Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, Comrade Jesse, unity through reparations, and drop the charges against the Uhuru Three, which includes these comrades, Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who represent taking a stand on the side of the colonized and oppressed, taking a stand on the side of the future, the inevitable future, where African and colonized people are free, where the colonial mode of production is destroyed, and no one lives at the expense of anybody else. That's the future that we're fighting for. That's the one that we're going to create with our own hands, and you can be part of that future. Abandon the pedestal and join the side, of the colonized and oppressed under the leadership of the African Revolution. So join the reparations contingent of the Black People's March on the White House. And we are coming to, that point in time, where we normally shut down. I do want to let people know we'll probably go over about 15 minutes in today's study, but I'm sure everybody can agree that everything we've heard today, all of the presentations have been extremely critical in helping us just to understand where we are, the situation in the world, and the significance of this mobilization, and why we have to do everything possible to get there to Washington, D.C., to Los Angeles, California, to Pretoria, occupied Azania, or to London, England, depending on where you are in the world. You have to make it your mission to be there, to be a part of this movement, to be a part of this struggle. And last but not least, to help, just clarify all of the details and information, I'm excited to bring up this comrade, the Hands Off Uhuru campaign chair, Mwezi Odom, who the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition is co-sponsoring this year's Black People's March on the White House, which is sponsored and held by the Black is Back Coalition. So Comrade Chair Mwezi is going to break down all the details to your questions of where and how, et cetera, et cetera. Here is Chair Mwezi. Welcome to the program. Very excited to have you, Comrade. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Director Akile. Wow, I just really want to salute today's Omali Taught Me study and just want to appreciate everybody who has presented before me. And as you said, very profound and just helping to deepen the questions and the demands that we will not only just take to this White House, but will continue to clarify so that on our way towards liberation for all the oppressed peoples of the world, we are clear about, as Director Akile said, we are making a decisive decision about what we are struggling for, to what end, which is liberation. So Uhuru, and I want to just pull up a PowerPoint presentation that will speak to some of the details that we're going to need to know moving into November 4th. So I want to salute President Yeshitela for this really amazing graphic here, calling everybody to march on the 15th annual Black People's March on the White House. So as it's been mentioned, I am the chairperson of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Fight Back Committee. And this year's mobilization is sponsored by the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, which has the ultimate goal to build the anti-colonial free speech movement. This is an organization of a coalition that is made up of over 40 organizations across the political spectrum that are bringing all of these demands to the White House and beyond. So I just want to show a quick graphic of the banner that will be, behind the Black is Back coalition on the 15th annual march. Just wanted to really salute our designers for this work. So some of this information, this also will be up on the website for any use that you can use on social media, et cetera, but we'll talk more about that. So again, all out to November 4th for the Black People's March on the White House, sponsored by the Black is Back Coalition, co-sponsored by Hands Off Uhuru. We just have some photos from last year. The reason why I want to, show this is just to remind people, get ready, start packing, a backpack, make sure you have water, good walking shoes, a hat, glasses, sunglasses, whatever you're going to need. Bring your flags, get your banners made. They don't have to be printed at a shop. They could be on a sheet with some paint and, and some stencils. Make this, make this march, your demands that you're bringing to this fight back as well. And so we just want to remind people to bring that and bring your issues. Bring, bring all of this to the mobilization. And DC in particular will have I'll talk about some more details about DC and where we can start to talk about these things, as one. So as it has been mentioned, this year's march is taking us around the world. Obviously, we will be in Washington, D.C., but as you heard, we will also be in Los Angeles, California. You heard from the comrades in London and as well as in Pretoria in occupied Azania. So if we're, those of us who will be going to DC, it will be a 3-day event. Some are coming by bus for the November 4th, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. And those of you who are staying for the whole time, we want you to know some important upcoming events. So on day one, there will be a press conference. This is November 3rd. the Friday. There will be a press conference at Sankofa Bookstore. This is at 2714 Georgia Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. We invite people to come. This is at 12 p.m. Eastern. Come to this press conference and you will hear more information. And if you sign up and you register, you can get alerts about these events as well. So that's day one. That's on the Friday. We also will be having a pre-rally, which I didn't put here, but day one is the pre-rally. So this is an opportunity for us to also, again, bring our issues, prepare our chants, all the things that will get us really excited for the march overall. Then on day two is the rally at Malcolm X Park, then the march to march to the White House, and then another rally at Lafayette Park. So this will begin at 11 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday, November 4th. This is for those of us who are going to Washington, D.C. We look forward to seeing the, following organizations, just a few of them. I'll just name off the Leonard Peltier Committee, the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition, Popular Resistance, Black is Back, obviously will be there. Afia, now Wanganza, ANWO, Impedum, USM, ABDEP, APSP. We look forward to seeing comrades from UNAC, Unión del Barrio, and also the Cuba Solidarity Committee. So just to name a few of those that we hope to see and will see on the day of November 4th. Now on November 3rd is the conference. So those of you who have been with us in the past, you know that we have a conference to sum up everything that we discuss and what is the way forward. This is always a really powerful conference led by the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. So we invite people to also prepare to stay. It will begin in the morning and end around midday. So we ask people to come and be prepared for the conference. More information about the time and location will come, which all depends on our space. So we invite people to register to let us know that we can count on you to be there. And you can do that right now as I'm talking by going to blackpeoplesmarch.com. This is where you will get all the information. And I'm going to walk us through that as well in this brief presentation. Just want to speak quickly to LA. Los Angeles now. So moving to the West Coast, as we said, this year there will be a bi-coastal mobilization. Here are some images of the front and back of the flyers. People have been making their own flyers. I just want to salute the creativity of those of us who are organizing to make this march happen, getting it out there in the world. We will be meeting at Crenshaw, at the corner of Crenshaw Boulevard and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in South Los Angeles. And then we will march to Lemert Park, which is the, the African and, Black center, art center of South Los Angeles, where many are familiar. And there's a lot of history in this park. And we're just very excited to bring everybody there. And as it has been mentioned, Uhuru 3, one of the Uhuru 3, Chairwoman Penny Hess will be joining us on the West Coast, and that's so exciting. And we are, excited to take the demands and, as has been said, bring the reparations contingent. I want to salute the organizations who have united with coming and helping to organize the Black People's March in Los Angeles. The Black Panther Party, Unión del Barrio, Black Alliance for Peace, Socialist Unity Party, Socialist Workers Party, Malaya Movement, Anagbayan, Joko Collective, and also student organizations who are coming in, labor unions, the Leonard Peltier Committee. We hope to see somebody from there as well, the African Black Coalition. I could go on. And that's just a few of the organizations that will be there that are helping to organize and get us there as well. And I want to emphasize the students. If you are a student or if you are in LA and you are in California, we're not just saying LA, we have people coming by train, people coming from Las Vegas. We're looking at the 12 quote unquote Western states. We want everybody to make it there to this mobilization. And if you have access to campuses, take these to the schools, get the students out as well. They need the right kind of political education, as we know. So moving to London, we wanted to make sure that the address and information here was available for everybody to see. As has been said, Luwezi Kinshasa, who is coordinating the Europe Committee, bringing people all over, Africans and people, all the people over from Germany, France, as well, and beyond. Taking the issues like housing and all the issues of African people wherever we have been dispersed. We invite people to join the committee to help build the London mobilization, to help build the London November 4th. You can do this by using the contact information that you see on your screen here. Well, being there at the rally, but our chat moderators can put in the chat right now the contact information, the phone number that you can call to reach comrades and to go ahead and start meeting on their committees. And they meet weekly, I believe on Tuesdays. So just to put that out there. Now, moving to Pretoria, we just heard from Tafarie Mugeri, who is coordinating the Africa mobilization, which will be happening in Pretoria in South Africa, also known as occupied Azania. And what we have here is to say that they will also be marching at the U.S. Embassy. Our chat moderators can put in the chat right now the phone number to be able to reach Tafarie Mugeri to be able to join the committee to help build this and bring also a reparations contingent. If we, just imagine to have a reparations contingent in occupied Azania would be really powerful, and we want to invite white people who are listening as well to get on board with this as well. Uhuru comrades. So register. Let us know that you're coming to the Black People's March on the White House. This is the only way we can count you in beforehand to help us make this march as tight as possible, make sure that we have everything that we need to prepare for the people. So, and we're also gonna, I'm gonna invite everybody to volunteer as well and to endorse. So we're gonna talk about that moving forward now. Uhuru. So again, here we go. Thank you so much. So our Zoom tech is helping us, is taking us through the website. So this is where we're going to head to now. Just briefly, I want to invite people to read the call. At the very top of the page, you will see this is, I'm on blackpeoplesmarch.com. We want you to invite everybody to read the call to attend. If you need some talking points, you want to know how to tell people why they need to be there. You already heard it today, but here is another way to learn what is the situation in the world and why this march is critical for us to continue the counteroffensive. So thank you, comrade. Next, I want to invite people to endorse. So if you look at the top menu, if you click the endorse, there'll be a form. Fill out that form. Let us know that you are willing and wanting to endorse. I want to just name and just thank some of the most recent endorsers on our list. Lauren, Sydney, Aaron Smith, Janice Glinser, the Chicago ALBA Solidarity, UNAC, Norma Harrison, Isabel Marino, Lee Trantuk, Jesse Todd, yes, Alderman Jesse Todd, Party of Communists USA, American Student Union, and the African National Women's Organizations. Those are just a few that have come in, and many of those were individuals. So just want to say individuals can also endorse this year's march. We're calling on people to also volunteer. It is a similar form that you can find on the website where you can sign up to volunteer and let us know whether that is in Washington, D.C., London, Pretoria, or in Los Angeles as well. Now, I want to also remind everybody that the best way to help get the word out is through outreach. So go to the outreach materials tab, which you'll see on the website. And here is where you can go ahead and download posters, club cards, which are, just small cards. Also some social media graphics. This is a great way. Use these pictures, JPEGs is what you'll use to post on social media. They're ready, fit, and ready for Instagram and for Facebook. So copy those, download those right now, get those out. You can do this by going to blackpeoplesmarch.com/outreach. That is the best way. And you'll also see the flyers for the West Coast mobilization, as well as London and Pretoria as well. All of this is on the blackpeoplesmarch.com/outreach. Lastly, we will just click that register button, because that's what we're saying. Register for the blackpeoplesmarch.com. This is the Eventbrite page where you will register for this march for all 3 days. You'll see an orange button on the side that says reserve a spot. That's what you'll click. And if you scroll down, you'll even get a perfect. So yes, when you do that, you'll be able to just select which day you're coming. If you're coming on the 3rd, put that there. You're coming on this, there you go, on the 4th. And if you're going to be there for the conference, you're going to click that and you're going to press checkout. When you check out, comrades, you just give us some information, provide that information so we know how to contact you. This is free registration. And we want to just show everybody how simple it is to register for the Black People's March. Let us know you're coming. So, and there's a brief schedule on the first page. This Eventbrite page will continue to be updated. So it's important that you are registered for important updates about this, this year's mobilization. So I don't have to say it anymore. I want to turn it back to Director Akile, but comrades, build the Black People's March. We are, very excited about this year's event. I want to salute the Omali Tommy Show team for making this call. Uhuru.
Uhuru, HOU Chair Mwezi Odom. And thank you so much for going through this entire, all this information. And I think with all of our dynamic presentations today, and with this very informative information with regard to logistics, volunteering, that people on this call in this meeting right now are well equipped to get to mobilize, to help organize for and build the November 4th Black People's March on the White House. So, with that being said, we're going to quickly go into some other announcements with regard to the Uhuru movement before turning it back over to Chairman Omali Yeshitela for closing remarks on today. So let's take a look at our movement announcements. First, join the counteroffensive to stop the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and the African liberation struggle. Drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. You can donate or volunteer with the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign by going to handsoffuhuru.org. On Saturday, October 21st in St. Louis, Missouri, come to the March for Reparations to African People. It's part of the 2023 Days of Reparations to African People campaign. This event calls on white people to say no to the FBI war on Black liberation and demand that the Biden administration drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. The march starts at the Carpenter branch of the St. Louis Public Library at 1 p.m. Central Time and convenes at the Old Carriage Pavilion in Tower Grove Park for a rally. A Days of Reparations conference will take place the following day, Sunday, October 22nd, at the Uhuru Solidarity Center in St. Louis at 1 p.m. Central Time. For more details, visit uhurusolidarity.org/events. Also, next Saturday, October 21st, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement will hold a Day of Reparations event in Tacoma, Washington at 3 p.m. Pacific Time at the First United Methodist Church. Join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement's international campaign for Days of Reparations to African People to mobilize white people across the U.S. and world to stand in solidarity with the African Revolution. For more information on this and other Days of Reparations campaign events coming up, visit uhurusolidarity.org/events. And this whole discussion has been centered around getting you to Washington, D.C. on November 4th for the 15th annual Black People's March on the White House. So again, in Washington, D.C., there will be 3 days, Friday, November 3rd, the 4th is the march, and the 5th is the conference. You can find all of this information again at the website, blackpeoplesmarch.com. And of course, if you cannot make it to Washington, D.C., there are mobilizations happening on the West Coast, in Los Angeles, California, in Europe and London, and in Pretoria, occupied Azania. Again, visit blackpeoplesmarch.com for all information regarding the D.C. mobilization and those happening throughout the world. And to help build and win people to the march on the White House, the October issue of the Burning Spear newspaper is here. You can purchase a bundle of 25, 50, 100 or more to sell and mobilize those in your community to come to the Black People's March on the White House. So make sure you get your copy, get your order, distribute your bundle out in your community. Visit theburningspear.store to make a one-time or recurring order purchase. And every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Africa time, tune in live for the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa, Africa region broadcast. The African region of the African People's Socialist Party responds to the attack with a series of programs under the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign. You can join Uhuru movement leaders, those of which you've heard in today's study, Director Tafarie Mugeri, Morlai Conte, and Visto Sabisa, who are making the demand for the FBI and U.S. government to back off and allow the African People's Socialist Party to advance the course of African people for self-determination. You can watch and follow on Facebook at facebook.com/APSP Africa Region. The One Africa, One Nation Farmers Market in St. Louis, a project of the Black Power Blueprint, is having the last market of the season, the annual Halloween Festival, a longtime tradition of the African People's Education and Defense Fund. This is a free family-friendly community event to ensure that youth in North St. Louis have an opportunity to enjoy a safe and fun Halloween in their own community. So come out Saturday, October 28th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. by the O'Fallon Park Boathouse. There will be food vendors, live DJ sets, a costume contest with prizes, tons of free candy, and more. The market is seeking donations to buy prizes for the costume contest, and you can make a tax-deductible donation at apedf.org/donate, and make a note that it's for the Halloween festival. If you live in St. Louis, you can also help by donating bags of candy. Please call 314-380-8014 or contact APEDF through their website, oneafricamarket.com, for more information. And in the last couple announcements, of course, make sure you like and subscribe to the Burning Spear TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study, and to bring the brilliant, electrifying presentations of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and other party speakers and leaders. Book these speakers with Uhuru Tours and Speakers Bureau, which is an institution of the African People's Socialist Party. You can bring the chairman and other speakers to your campus or organization. Email info@uhurutours.com or call 727-914-3621. And for all other events that I was not able to mention today, you can go to theburningspear.com/events to see everything going on in the Uhuru movement. So comrades, that will conclude our announcements. And as we wrap up today's study, I want to turn it back over to St. Louis with Chairman Omali Yeshitela to offer some closing remarks to what's been a very powerful, dynamic, and packed program. So Uhuru, Chairman.
Uhuru, thank you very much, Comrade Akile. I just want to express my appreciation to you and all of the people who made this teach-in, this study successful, made it occur, all of the technicians and people who are functioning out of sight in the back end of this process. And just to remind people that this attack on my right to speak is more than just an attack on me. It's more than just an attack on the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party. The fact is, denying me the right to speak is also denying you the right to hear what I have to say. And it's not even a question of whether you agree or not, but you should have access to what I have to say, or what anybody has to say. And that is something that somebody does that wants to keep you ignorant of whatever else is happening in the world. So the free speech question is not a little question, it's a big question. And the fact is, what I have to say has to do with ending the oppression of African and other colonized people, and indeed of people who work, people who are producers. When I say work in this instance, I'm not talking about whether they have a job or not. I'm talking about if they did have the ability to have a job, it would be a part of a process of creating value, and value that, generally speaking, they do not control, they do not possess. So I just wanted to say that. And also, I think it's important to challenge, like white people and the white left. You have this splendid opportunity, and I hope you'll step forward. I know some of the contradictions that we're looking at. I know that there are people, Jews, who are afraid of Palestinians, that Black people, even white left people, et cetera, are afraid of Black people. That's the reality that we live with and we have to contend with. And it's an irrational fear because it's not like the Palestinians are sticking up roadblocks where you live or starving you or anything like that. It's not like African people are lynching and doing horrible things to white people. The fact is, it's an irrational kind of fear that has been imposed on you by the colonial kind of mode of production relationships that exist here. And the whole notion of struggling against colonialism can be a frightening idea for many white people. The idea that Black people come into power over our lives, and what does Black power mean? And this is why we keep hearing this refrain, you know, but what about the white people when we talk about Black people being free? It's a fear. And it's a natural fear in the sense that the freedom of the colonizer has always depended on the oppression and the theft of freedom of those who are colonized. But it's an error to make an assumption that people want to be free for the opportunity to do something bad to you. people want to be free for the opportunity to do something good for ourselves. And you have to be able to step around your own fears and unite with progress, because the people are going to be free everywhere. And the question is whether or not hang gliders will be coming into your community tomorrow, or whether or not you will facilitate the ability of people to engage in creating life for ourselves. This is what it's all about. Join in with the rest of us. All out for November 4th. Forward to Washington, D.C. Not one step backwards, forward ever, backwards never. Adelante siempre. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman, Uhuru, comrades. That will bring us to the end of today's study, and just want to echo the call, not one step backwards, forward ever, backwards never, and drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out at November 4th in Washington, D.C., or whether you're in Los Angeles, California, Pretoria, Occupy Tanzania, or London, England. We are looking forward to marching with you side by side, taking on this struggle and advancing us into the future. So also want to echo the chairman in saluting, the Omali Taught Me show team for all of the forces who are part of this production, pulling this process together, and to all of you for tuning in today and staying with us as we, took the study in an extended period of time. So whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, we're glad to have you with us. And I want to, of course, end this by saluting the brilliant leadership of our chairman, Omali Yeshitela. Make sure to follow the chairman on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram, and subscribe to the Burning Spear TV on YouTube to catch every episode of the Omali Taught Me Sunday Study. Forward to the Black People's March on the White House. Uhuru.